It is Thursday, October 2nd, 2003, approximately 7:40 a.m. I am John Azzarello with the 9/11 Commission, and we're at the New York Air Route Center in Ronkonkoma, New York, about to begin an interview with Paul Thumser.
Miles Kira, 911 Commission.
Jeff Brown, 911 Commission.
Correlda Sanders, Lane Supervisory Attorney, FAA Eastern Region.
Wolfgang Lorch, New York Center Subcom.
Paul Thumser, Operations Supervisor, New York Center.
And just for the record, Mr. Lurch, your last name is spelled
E-R-C-H.
And what's your position here?
I'm a New York Center Subcom rep. I represent all the supervisors in New York Center, and I've been sitting in with all of them as their representative.
And Mr. Thumser, can you spell your last name for the record?
Thumser.
Thank you. Can we just sort of start by you giving us a background of when you started with the FAA and what the various positions were that you held leading up to September 11, 2001, and then tell us what position you held that day.
Sure. Do you just want FAA or any other aviation background?
Well, if you have any other aviation background, you can let us know.
I have extensive aviation background. So, well, I have all my flying licenses. I was a former pilot before the air traffic controller strike in 1981. After college, I was a professional flight instructor, and then I moved on to commuter airlines. And prior to the strike, I was chief pilot and director of operations for a commuter airline here on Long Island. I was an FAA check airman, which means that on behalf of the FAA, I give check rides to the commuter airline pilots to maintain their certified flying skills, ground skills, and so forth. So that involves me having the same licenses as commercial airline pilots. It's called an airline transport pilot certificate or license, and I have that, single and multi-engine. Flight expensive experience for over 5,000 hours of flying by the time I was 26 years old. When the air traffic controllers went on strike in 1981, I had already been interviewed by several airlines, including 5 interviews with United, 2 in Colorado, and several other airlines. So I was just about, hopefully, to be hired. My goal was to be a professional commercial airline pilot. And it was darn close to achieving those goals up until August 3rd of 1981. And since I had such extensive experience, I didn't, and in the flying world, the furloughs were going to continue for 3 to 5 years after the strike, and I had plenty of time. And the commuter airline is not someplace you get rich; it's where you build experience. So in about October or so, I left the flying world, and in November, I was hired by the FAA as an air traffic assistant.
What year was that?
1981, November of 1981. An air traffic assistant. You familiar with that position?
Is that the RA position, the H position?
No. The H and the R positions are 2152s, which is air traffic control. That's our FAA designate for the position. I was a 2154. Basically, the job of an ATA is to take the flight progress strips, put them in the appropriate holders, and put them in the appropriate positions for the controllers. That's simplified. I was hired at the New York TRACON. Now, I started on February 7th of 1982. I was hired in November, and I started there February 7th, 1982.
At the TRACON?
At the TRACON, at the New York TRACON. And what they did is they hired many former airline pilots. Some of them are retired, over 60, and some of us younger guys who were out of work at the time, because they wanted that aviation background to assist the controllers. And so we went to a class there, and part of my experience recently. I had flown for, several commuters and stuff, but flying into LaGuardia and Kennedy quite extensively. So I really knew the operation, so to speak, the air traffic operation, the flows, and things like that. So I was asked to go to the Kennedy area. And in addition to just putting the flight progress strips in, we formulated clearances, routes, read them to control towers and things like that. So we were, can I say, junior controllers or something like that. And they encouraged me, the management there encouraged me strongly to become a controller. And I never wanted to be a controller. That was a sort of a temporary job. I had already had a master's degree in business. And I had felt, at this point, somewhat resigned, 26 years of age, that I had given aviation my best shot, lots of years, and, paid the dues, that sort of thing. And I was ready to move on. So I was actually going into Wall Street and taking interviews in the business world. But that was a time in 1981 of severe inflation, maybe an economic recession, to put it mildly, and they weren't hiring. they were hiring, but they were hiring at like entry level courses, So anyway, they convinced me the money was going to be better being a controller. So I took the test, scored very highly on it, got out to Oklahoma City in about November, came back November of '83. This is now. Got back in March or April of '83. I'm sorry, it was November of '82, same year that I went out there. I got back in March, I think it was March or April, I can't quite remember, and began training. And since I had background and stuff, I went right into training, got certified in a very, very short period of time. I was FPL with a fully qualified rate in all sectors in about 10 months. So I was in FPL in about April of 1984 or so.
Here at New York Center?
At the New York Trade Con. This is Kennedy Approach Control. There's at the time there were 4 areas in there. There was Kennedy, LaGuardia, Newark, and Islip. There were 4 areas, and I was Kennedy.
And FPL is full performance?
Right. Certified, that's correct. Now we call it, pardon me, my throat's a little...
CPC?
CPC.
Certified Professional Controller.
And CPC meaning that they are certified on every control position within the respective area. So at the time, we called that FPL, full performance level. And that was about April of 1984. And within about 2 or 3 years, the FAA initiated a program because of delay-oriented called East Coast Plan, that they were going to redo all the departure and arrival routes and so forth. And I was asked to participate in that. And that led to a detail where I was a training specialist over there, a staff position. And that led to a short detail at the Eastern region. And all those things cumulative, I applied to be a supervisor here and was selected in June of 1988.
So June '88, you became a supervisor
Here.
at the New York Inwood Center.
That's when I was selected. I reported for duty 1/89, January 1st, '89. I reported for duty here.
Okay.
And then I was assigned to one area and worked there for about 5 or 6 years and participated in different work groups and things like that.
And is that position you refer to today as an OS, or Operations Supervisor?
Yes, it is.
And have you held that position ever since January 1989 here at the New York Center?
Yes, I have.
What areas have you supervised here at the New York Center?
Area B is in Bravo, where I am now. Area C for maybe 3 years, and back to Area Bravo.
Okay. So two different areas you supervised here in your tenure at the center.
Correct.
On September 11, 2001, what area were you supervising?
Area D.
And if you could briefly describe for us what are the general duties and responsibilities of an area supervisor, operations supervisor?
During a day, 7 to 3, a day shift, or a 3 to 11, generally a night shift, the area we're responsible for would be control of all the airspace, the ultimate authority. Responsible for the personnel on duty, making sure personnel are on duty, so forth. Their professional and personal actions. In addition to that, training responsibilities and other sort of FAA initiatives, training, recurrent training, classroom training, anything that's going on, we would be the authority for the area on. If there is for example, today we have 2 controllers who are up in a classroom going through our training program, and if they had any needs or anything that comes up, I would be responsible for them as well. But the main thing, of course, is I'm responsible for the airspace.
You're overseeing all of the
Area of the
sections in
airspace.
that airspace.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And that involves, of course, constant, supervision of it.
Okay, and in the chain of command, Paul, who would you report to directly above you?
I would report to the operations manager on
OMIC?
duty.
Is that the OMIC?
Yeah, the one in charge, not the one that's assigned to my area, because they put guys there's 5 or 6 supervisors in each area, and then each is assigned an operations manager. Some operations manager have more than one area. But the person, just as me, who's in charge at the watch desk for that particular shift is who I would report to.
And that's the operations manager in charge of,
Right, OMIC,
of all of the
of the shift.
operations.
That's
Of
right.
that shift.
That's
And
right.
on September 11th, that was Bruce Barrett, right?
That's correct.
So you would have reported directly to Bruce.
That's correct.
And if you know, who would Bruce Barrett have reported to?
Bruce Barrett reports to the deputy,
And who's that? What
assistant manager, Dave Lacates,
assistant air traffic manager?
facility manager, right? Assistant air traffic manager. That's right.
And then above Dave?
Mike McCormick, air traffic manager.
And how about above Mike? Is he at the top?
No, well, the region.
I mean, here in the...
Yes, it is.
Okay, so then Mike would report to the region.
Correct.
Do you know, if you know, I mean, this might not be a fair question, do you know who Mike would report to at the region on September 11th, who was immediate?
Yes, he would report to AEA 501.
Did you know who that was?
It's Rick Ducharme.
Rick Ducharme, could you
Yeah,
spell it?
D-U capital C-H-A-R-M-E.
A-R-M-E.
Yeah, he is now AEA 500. He is now the air traffic manager of the Eastern Region.
And at that time, on September 11th, he was ADA 501, did you say?
He was 501. He was acting as 500 because Frank Hatfield was on detail in Washington.
Okay. And, Paul, before, I'm going to do a little non sequitur here, ask you one question, and that's based on your experience as a pilot, so maybe you can help us out on something. I don't believe we've interviewed anyone yet as a controller who has your extensive experience flying, but we've heard about an ELT.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Emergency locator transmitter.
Do you know from your experience, is that a device that could be manually set off by a pilot or not?
Not in a 767.
Okay, so not in American Airlines 11 or United Airlines 175 that crashed that night?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
In smaller airplanes, it looks like a, you know what a handheld GPS looks like, or what's like a walkie-talkie radio, okay, like a small walkie-talkie radio, and on the side there's like a toggle switch. The early ones, it was very easy to hit them, and they used to go off like in the Cessnas and stuff like that in the smaller planes all the time, and set off the alerts. And of course they updated those over the years, so now it was really, they put a bar over it, a safety bar, that you couldn't just, like a passenger in the back couldn't just accidentally hit it. In those airplanes, it's not even in the cockpit. I don't believe it's there's any capability for a manual override, is what you're asking.
Right.
I know an ELT went off early.
Right.
I know. That's a false ELT, and it's not even like a testing ELT, because that's done the first 5 minutes of the hour. Familiar with that?
That we've been told about.
Okay. From 00 to 05, it's a testing period that we, the government, will not respond to to those reports. That's so a pilot can test it to make sure the batteries and so forth are working. And that was at 45 or 44,
Right.
844.
Yeah.
That.
Let me ask you this, if you know, on the 767 then, how is an ELT set off or trip? Is it set off generally on impact?
Yeah, that's impact would be, to my knowledge, the only.
Nothing in here that correlates that ELT to either 175 or 11. That could have come from anywhere.
It could have come from anywhere. We'll get that signal over a frequency 121.5, the emergency, or 243.0 for the military, and there's nothing that came up.
Let me ask you.
And nobody reported an ELT either. So a lot of times the pilots, when we get an ELT off the 0 to 05 time period, pilots will report that to us. And we'll subsequently get, the procedure for me would be to get a couple of other reports. Report it to the watch desk, okay? And if they get a couple of reports, depending upon the altitude and things like that, they may solicit lower reports. They call RCC and so forth. The process starts on that.
The RCC is?
Air Force Rescue, I forget what it stands, a rescue
Coordination Center?
Yeah, it's the Air Force. It's SARSAT, the satellite and all that coordination.
If you know, it's been suggested, some people we've spoken with, that an ELT on a jumbo jet or a 767 type jet could be, set off even on a hard landing. Do you know if that's true?
You know, the parameters for that, those type of airplanes, the idea of landing that type of airplane, I've flown in the simulator 7.4 and 7.0 and 7.2. The idea of that is not necessarily to grease it on and so the idea, and it isn't to drive it through the concrete either. But the idea of landing that type of airplane is to get it on the ground, and really it can really sustain a pretty good a rough landing for you as a passenger. Some say, oh boy, that was like a little rough kind of thing. And I've seen really rough landings, and the ELTs don't go off. So the sensitivity is not like that. The sensitivity is set in such a way that it's going to be a crash. It's going to be an impact of some sort. I was involved with Egypt Air 989, and that was where the plane was flown into the ocean or crashed into the ocean without making determinations, and an ELT did not go off. Now we didn't. Let me correct that. The ELT was not received. Now, because it was underwater, whatever, but we did not have ELT reports over there. Had we gotten, that was approximately 2 a.m. that plane went down. We didn't have any verification that the plane was lost until about 7:15 local, because at that time of year, like now, it was Halloween. That's when daylight was, and they saw debris. Now I had airplanes. I was the midnight supervisor. The midnight supervisor becomes the OMIC. So I had control of everything New York Center owns at that point. And I had a controller vector an airplane off course to go over to the area where we thought we last had contact with Egypt Air, and no ELT report. And that airplane was at 41,000, which is really high. I mean, you get ELTs in New Hampshire from Cape Cod at 41,000, and they didn't have it. So back with your question,
yeah.
It's impact. It's a big impact on a 7.6 for an ELT.
Okay. If I can take you back now to September 11th, you report to work, and your shift is 7 to 3, is that correct? And you go right to Area B that day?
Yes.
Okay. Tell us about the events of September 11th as they unfolded that day, as a general framework, when you first became aware that there was any problems with respect to American Airlines 11, and the same for United Airlines 175.
Okay. At approximately in the time frame is I hope to get it pretty close, fairly exactly. We have detection equipment here in this facility in the centers that indicate when two airplanes are too close to each other. 5 miles, 1,000 feet, sometimes 2,000 feet, depending upon where they are and what airspace and so forth. An alarm goes off on a computer that's also a printout in this watch area up here when that is violated.
If you lose separation.
If you lose separation of the machine, it can be between a VFR and and an IFR. It can be a number of different things. That went off that morning. I'm guessing about 8 o'clock. It's not. So what I have to do when we suspect that a controller has had an operational error and so forth is, number one, have them relieved from the position. Get them up. We need to talk to them. And so on and so forth. If they had an error, they may not be legal to work. They may be decertified. They may have had history that's going to eventually prove them not qualified to work, and so on and so forth. We request downstairs what they call an NTAP, which I can spin the definition up. But what it is, it's a printout, a computer printout, with targets and altitudes and times. And the targets will be lettered A or B. And it will have the history, and you can see if they make a turn and so forth, and the altitude readouts. And we literally match the times and the altitudes with a ruler and see if somebody's had an error. If that comes back that we don't have good indications of where the airplanes were, or we measure and it was 5 miles, we're done and he goes back to work. If that is not conclusive, or it indicates less than 5 miles, we then go to a voice tape. Everything, of course, is recorded downstairs. We literally pull the reel-to-reel, about 1-inch tape off. We listen to it and see if the pilot reported leaving an altitude or something that would, again, eliminate the need for us calling an operational error.
Right.
So about 8 o'clock, the snitch goes, and the nickname for that is a snitch, because I just said it, and you're not going to know what I'm talking about. The snitch goes off at 8 o'clock. I get the controller basically up. We finally get the NTAP, 8:15 maybe. It's not conclusive, so I get the voice tape. We request the Airways Facilities people to send us up the voice tape. So maybe about 8:20 or sometime like that, I put a controller, since I was the only supervisor on duty, a controller in charge.
Now, when you say you were the only supervisor on duty in Area B?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I put Ivana Dallas in charge. I give her a briefing. I tell her what's going on, blah, blah, blah. The controller's already out, so I'm going to get the tape and listen to the tape and begin the investigation of the operational error. I'm out in the cafeteria talking to the controller. What happened? What did you, blah, blah, blah. Did he report? What happened? I'm waiting for the tape. And about 8:35, it's like 10 or 15 minutes or so, that's about the time when you sense that, okay, the tape should be ready and delivered back to watch us. So I walk back into the control room floor to the watch desk, and right here is where Bruce Barrett sits.
Okay.
Have you guys been out there?
Yes.
Okay. Here's where I am.
Mm-hmm.
Here's where it was. Okay. And so I walk back, and he's got the reel right there. So I said, great, you got it right there. I said, I'll go listen to it now. And Bruce said to me, hang on, I got something else going on. I need you back in the area. So he said, we have a possible hijack. So I said, okay. So I go back to the area, and Ivan is there. And this map is not marked correctly, this charting map. Let me turn this around so you can see. Make a note. It's R42, D42, 429, I think you're going to find it. That's R56. And this 431 that's not marked would be D36. Mm-hmm. So it's important. There's one position, and it's about this length right here between Wolfgang and myself.
About 5 feet.
Yeah. I'm working a radar position, and Wolfgang's working a radar position. And this is a handoff position normally, but it's not staffed at that time. My handoff person sits on this.
You're right. So the handoff sits to the right of the controller.
Both rights, exactly. Okay. So anyway, so I walk back in, and Ivana has the area, and Mark Merced is working R56. And Ivana briefs me basically on what's going on. I assume responsibility for the area again. Take watch with Mark, and kind of kneel down right to Mark's left, right between both of them, right here. And we indicate the primary target, this and that. He's following as a primary target.
Do you know what the call sign is for it at that point?
Yeah,
What is,
American 11.
okay.
And they inform me of some conversations. He's having conversations with Boston,
Who is?
the controller.
Mark or Dave?
Mark.
Mark, okay.
Mark's on R56. Dave's not in it yet.
Okay.
Dave's on R42, but Mark's having conversations with Boston, and he has a headset on, so I'm only hearing what Mark's saying. And it's basically, okay, 29, okay, whatever.
We're getting one end of Mark's conversation with
Right. So, of course, Mark, basically, the indication is the last known, and well said, that's exactly right, the last known altitude was flight level 290. So everybody's aware of it. Dave's aware of it. Check with him because it's going to maybe go through his airspace a little bit. He knows about it, and it kind of comes down from Kingston.
If you want behind you, follow the maps over the site. And there's the American 11's path to your route.
Yeah, okay. And here's the boundary. This line is the boundary between Boston and New York. And he's coming down like this, and from about here over, just west of Lake LaGuardia, this is sector 42 where Dave was working. And over here, northeast kind of flow like this with Kennedy, that's where Mark's working. So we have an aircraft. So anyway, so the airplane's right about where that arrow is about when I'm in there. Everybody's aware of it. We're protecting 29,000. In other words, we're not going to get within 2,000 feet. 29 is when it changes to 2,000. So.
Do you know at that point that there's been no radio communications with
Yes.
the aircraft? And for approximately how long had you heard at that point that they had not had radio contact?
15 minutes, 15 or 20 minutes. And this is probably about 8:40. This is.
How about the transponder? Did they give you any information on that? Whether it was
No, the transponder was off.
Okay.
And we were told it's a primary target.
Primary only.
Okay. So anyway, everybody's aware of it.
Let me ask you one other question.
Go right ahead.
Did they also give you information about course deviation at that point?
Yes. Yeah, he's off course.
Way off?
Oh yeah, because he was I think J49 or I don't know. I'm not sure what his original flight plan was, but he was not supposed to come through our area.
Did you know he was destined for Los Angeles, LAX?
No, not at that time. I didn't.
But you knew he was not supposed to even come through your area.
Correct.
Okay.
And a lot of the Boston Center traffic to LAX, United 175, does come through our area, and we will have the strips on them.
Okay.
We did not have strips on American 11, and therefore our computer doesn't know American 11 from a hole in the wall because we're not supposed to know about him. So we know he's off course. They don't know where he's going. The last known was flight level 290. And there he is, and my people who need to know.
And they're tracking the primary.
And they're watching. They're not tracking, but they're watching.
Watching where it's headed.
Yeah. The R42 controller, Dave, started a track on him, a computer track on a primary. We're not going to get mode C information, altitude information. Dave started a track on him just to keep an eye on the primary. But the primary was very good. Clear on Mark's scope. Everything was very clear. So in order to kind of validate whatever, the best we could do, I asked Mark to take an airplane that was southwest of Kennedy, heading northeastbound. It was an Eagle 936, I think it was, his call sign. It was an Eagle.
Mm-hmm.
And check him to flight level 310, which we did, and kind of run him by the American.
To see if you can get a visual report of where the American may be altitude-wise.
Absolutely right.
Because it could be anywhere from the ground to the ceiling, right?
It could be anywhere.
Right.
We don't know. The last known was, which when we say a last known, that we know that it's unverified.
Right.
So we're not really sure. We're protecting 29, but it could be anywhere.
Last known just means at some point in the past he was at.
That's
29.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not counting him on being at 29. We're not running airplanes deliberately underneath or above him. we're going to actually stay clear, because he could be at anything legally, and we know that. That's why last known is different from he was at. So I'm trying to run an airplane by him at 31 to determine an altitude. So I asked Mark to do that, and he did it, and he did an outstanding job. He gave a vector, and then he adjusted it one time, and he just went to the perfect eagle, just went to the left of the American. And that was probably 10 or 15 miles maybe northwest of LaGuardia, approximately, to the best of my recollection and all that. And to our shock, he said, I don't see him. Now, just so you know, you run an airplane by somebody at 3129, that's like a tractor, you driving a tractor trailer by me, not even on the LIE, like on Vets Highway, where you will absolutely, positively, unequivocally see that traffic, especially a 767. Any type of airplane you'll see, and he didn't see him. So that was major trouble for us. So at that point, and right, of course, as soon as he passed the American, Mark turned him right on course and so forth, and got the eagle back out of there. At that point,
Why do you say major trouble? Because he didn't see him.
Because now we don't know what altitude he's at. Now he's heading right for a extremely busy air traffic part of the world. There are lots of airplanes at lots of altitudes all over. The myriad of Kennedy, LaGuardia, Newark's flows and the different altitude structures would take me hours to explain to you. There's just traffic everywhere going in every direction at different altitudes. So it's just, mind-boggling as to where he is, what altitude. He could be high, could be low, whatever.
So, can I stop you 1 second?
Yeah.
And ask you another question. I'm trying to get the full understanding of your full situational awareness. So I want to ask you about another factor. At this point in time, when Mark Merced is trying to vector this Eagle flight to get a visual altitude sighting of the American 11 airline, had you up to that point in time heard anything about, either firsthand or secondhand, about any threatening communications being overheard from the cockpit of American Airlines 11 by somebody up in Boston?
When I got back to the area, the first thing was no. The first thing was, we just think we have a hijacked airplane. The situation was presented as, and what we knew in that area was, we have a possible hijacking, because we hadn't, again, it wasn't confirmed. We didn't have any voices from the cockpit or anything like that. They were Nordo, non-radio. The transponder had been shut off for some reason.
So it's primary only?
Primary only. We're not talking to the pilot. He's off course, and we're not sure where he's going. And in a possible hijacking.
If you were not, so the answer is, at that point, you weren't told about over here the cockpit communication.
When I returned to the area.
Or when you got back to the area is when you heard about the cockpit.
During this.
During this time that you were working with Mark Merced?
Right.
You remember?
Right.
Was it prior to or after Mark vectored the Eagle flight to look for American Airlines? If you remember.
I don't remember.
Okay. At or about that time?
Yes.
Okay.
This all happened, everything from the time I got back to the area to the time they appeared, American appeared basically in our airspace about 15 northwest. The first thing we did, made a determination to vector somebody over. Mm-hmm. This was, everything I've told you so far is like a minute or two.
Okay, fair enough.
So the Eagle comes up maybe like now it's 2 or 3 minutes. Now the Eagle goes. Now, meanwhile, at the next sector, right where Wolfgang's sitting, he's telling me that he's getting reports. This is Dave now.
Right.
From these pilots, Delta saying there was something going on at Boston and so on and so forth. Not the United transmission yet.
Right.
But, there was something going on at Boston, and Dave was like, hang on, we're aware of it, because Dave was like right on top of, sitting right next to this. I'm looking now, we don't know what the altitude is. And now the mindset and the stress level and so forth in the area, right from me, because I generate that sense of urgency to the area, and stand out in the middle of the area and basically say, oh, hey, now we don't know what altitude this guy's at. Now I've got about 3 sectors now that are going to be involved that have traffic, just my sectors. We don't know what, I have to tell the watch desk what's going on, and so forth. We don't know what altitude he's at. So now it's definitely our procedure. Stay away from this target.
Mm-hmm.
Stay not under, not over, nowhere near, turn your airplanes out of the way, avoid, and so forth. Okay, so I'm conveying that message rather strongly and loudly and boldly and demonstratively to the area.
One moment, before you continue, I just wanted to detail. It was Mark Merced who you asked to take
Eagle.
back to the Eagle?
I did.
Okay. And which controller, it was also Mark Merced who initially tagged the primary?
No,
It was Dave who tagged it?
yeah, it was the other sector.
Okay, that's what I wanted to separate that. Thank you.
Now, the reason to sort of get up close and personal on that scope is you're only following a primary blip, and it's critical that you maintain super eye contact and stuff with that.
We saw the Satori, just so you know,
Okay.
we've seen.
So, and that primary stayed up pretty well, by the way, for us. So, we had pretty good returns. It was nice weather and everything else like that day. But after working the Tracon, you can always lose a primary, and they're slow. In the Tracon, you have MTI gate that you can set, and what that tells the radar is to look for moving targets or look for stationary targets. So you can turn it down, and I could show the World Trade Center and all that other type of stuff. So that sense of keeping an eye on that primary was important. So we lose the altitude on the mode. We don't know what altitude American's at. This is about 15 miles northwest of LaGuardia, and so now I'm in the middle of the area. Telling everybody, hey, we don't know what he's at, watch it. I'm telling the 68 controller, which is right across from him, right over here. And it, basically, like, he's going to come down. He has departures that come down now southwest of Kennedy. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Around the 56. Right. He's got traffic that comes out, comes down this way and goes over, and so forth. So telling the 55 control, they have traffic that comes out and goes approximately like this to Robbinsville and then southwest and northwest like this out of there. So now, I've got 4 out of 5 sectors. The only sectors that I'm not worried about is, why isn't it marked? It's 39 over here. 55 has this here at Robbinsville. 68 is underneath this. They go down this way. So now everybody, 4 out of 5 know. And they need to know. So now I go right back, kneeling down with Mark Merced, and we're watching the primary. I'm like, we're keeping an eye on him, and we lose the target. Right over Manhattan.
Disappears from the screen.
We lose the primary,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, when a target goes through a normal terminal radar, when it goes directly overhead the radar, you lose the target. It goes into like they term the Big Bang or whatever. It comes out of the radar center, right over the direct top of it. So you lose it for a second or two. But here, you don't lose targets here. Here is a correlation of radars that give us a return and an average, and that's why our separation is a little bit more. It's not as accurate, but you don't lose. If they go over one, you still have the other that are hitting. So I'm kneeling down. I said to Mark, that is weird. We lost them right over. I said, that's Manhattan. I said, the only way you lose a target there is if they're low. Now, we don't.
How well, you don't know.
We don't know anything. Now we lose the target. So I'm like, damn, we lost it. So now I tell it 68, hey, we lost that target. Now we don't know where he is. The whole area now. I'm like not going crazy, but I want everybody to know what's going on. I lost the primary target. I don't know where he is.
Totally in the blind.
Right. So now I have nothing. Now this is major trouble.
Now you don't know latitude, longitude,
Nothing.
direction.
Now we have nothing. So it's just, luckily it's VFR, tell your pilots, keep your eyes open, whatever. If you see anything, I want everybody to know what's going on. That's an important part of my job there. Just keep the controllers informed, let them know exactly what's going on so they can make the appropriate decisions that they need to. And
What happened next?
Dave, okay, at that exact point, Dave says to me, I can't talk to this United. I've lost this United. So I run over, where is he? At that point, the target, the data block was still there, but it wasn't tracking an altitude.
Okay.
So if you look on the Satori and you watch it, you'll see that there he is 31 with all 31, then all of a sudden, boop, no altitude, boop, no altitude, boop, no altitude, boop, no altitude. Now the computer has lost the capability to track that airplane because it's lost.
Is that called coast? When it
Yeah.
goes into coast?
No, it went into coast after 4 hits.
Okay.
And then it'll say CST in the data block, coast, to tell you that I can't find this target. The first 4 hits, it kind of figures out where, based on the history, the track would be. So the computer says, okay, you're going like this, this, this. Okay, so even though I don't have it, I'm going to guess the next one's here, and I'm going to guess.
Projects it.
Right.
And for the record, 4 hits, each hit is 12 seconds, so that would be about 48 seconds.
Yeah. Each hit is,
5 a minute.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So it's about like that. And but he notices it. It goes to coast track, and then I'm going to say maybe 15. So I have to look at the Satori again. A few seconds later, Dave calls him, and Dave's not getting him. So within that minute, from the time that he loses it and so forth, he calls him and he tells me he's not getting him. He lost it. Then, so I run over to him, and we look, and it's a different transponder code that comes up called a limited data log, where we get the transponder code and the mode C, the altitude, is there. And Dave says, that's United 175. And, of course, we look at the strip, and I said, he's on the wrong code. Or something, what happened? Dave goes, I don't know. And he was at 31. Now he's at, he went up to 33.8. And now he's, coming down again, So he's like, now I don't know what's going on. Almost, now the chief and the deputy are in the area by now.
And who's the chief?
McCormick, Mike McCormick,
And Dave LeCage?
and Dave LeCage is the deputy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they're in the area at this time. So we're watching.
They're in Area B now.
They're right. They're standing basically right behind me as I'm right up there with Dave. We're watching. The United goes down and starts a turn. So now he's descending.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Dave's sector.
If I could freeze you for 1 second, Paul. Right up to this point,
Yeah.
have you heard anything more about
I'm
American
just
West?
about to say that.
Okay, go ahead.
Yep. Just a second.
All right, go ahead.
Here's 39. Forget that line. Forget that for a second. Here's 39.
Just for the record, you point to the high sectorization map.
Yeah, this is this is a ZMY high sectorization map. But what I'm saying is, sector 39 goes all the way down here. I don't want you to think that this is not sector 39 here.
55 lays over top of 39.
No, it doesn't.
No?
No, they're side by side, John.
Oh, they don't?
They both own up to flight level 280, 28,000.
Okay.
And down to about here, right above them, and also up there, but right above them, at 29 and above, is sector 42.
Oh, okay.
It's still on this map, but it
Still on
doesn't
it.
quite portray what you just said.
42 owns up here at above an altitude that another departure sector owns below. They own 24 and above here,
Okay.
okay? And they own 29 and above, right above 39 and 55.
Okay.
39 and 55 is, they have different bottoms starting altitudes at different points, but essentially they own up to flight level 280, and then 42, where Dave's working, owns above it.
Above 280.
Correct. So United 11 is coming down this route right here, J80, okay, at 31. Now he's descending. So 28 and below is another sector.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to tell 39.
Got you.
Okay. So now, again, this is all within minutes. This is probably within 2 minutes after we lost the primary on American 11. Now the airplane is coming down, probably about this intersection right here is our departure fix, Elliott, and probably right about Elliott now we see him descending.
Could you show us where it is on the UA 175 map, that track?
Right there. There's a triangle right there.
And that's before the United 175 makes the sharp left turn?
Correct, oh, yes.
Okay.
Probably about 10 miles, 10 or 13 miles, whatever the signal is on these maps, but, it's probably 10 or 15 miles. Right there is where he's descending. So now my concern is this guy is descending. So I have to tell Sector 39.
And unlike American 11, you do have a good fix on United 175's altitude.
Exactly. Okay. That's why I know this is a whole different situation where there's a lot of unknown there, and we're kind of moving airplanes out of the way. Here, where we know exactly where it is, and we know exactly who to tell, and what airplanes to move.
Because the Mode C transponder is still on.
Right. So we're getting out.
Walking a different beacon code, but
Right.
Dave has connected that new beacon code to United 175's call sign.
He didn't have to. No, he didn't.
Okay.
They went on a different transponder code, but we're going to see the limited data blocks. He had that option to look at limited data blocks on his setup, on his scope. We don't have any data block that says United 175 on it. Nothing, just the limited. We have 4 digits and an altitude. So right
What
away,
I'm saying is he knew, even though it didn't have the call sign on that limited data block, Dave
yes.
associated that limited data block to be United 175.
Oh, yeah, and he told me that's, I mean, it was clearly him. There wasn't any, like, he had 50 airplanes, and, I think it was this one, it was like, he was pretty well there alone, the only traffic he had the spot nailed exactly. The coast track, and follow the coast track, and I think with that word you use, the computer figures out the assumption of the next position.
Projection.
Okay, projection, and so forth. So he's still on course, but now he's beginning a descent finally. And of course, I'm telling the sector, now he begins the turn. Now at this point right here, someone had come back from the cafeteria and said, or we had gotten a report, somehow we had found out in the area, right about here, before he started the turn, but after he started the descent. Because I knew United was not doing what he was supposed to be doing.
Right.
He could have gone to another transponder code. If he was level at 31, it would have, because of losing a primary, it would have been a little bit, a lot, like one thing going on is kind of an accident. The 2 things going on is a little bit too much irony. But when he started the descent there, again, bingo trouble. And that's when we had heard through some source that a small airplane had hit the World Trade Center.
When you heard that, what thoughts of that went through your mind?
The information that I had at the time
At that time?
was this. I had a hijacked airplane,
Which one are you referring to?
American 11.
Okay.
I lost the primary on it.
Okay.
I know exactly where I lost that primary,
Okay.
over Manhattan.
Okay.
So therefore, I knew it was American 11.
So at that point, when somebody came back from the cafeteria and told you there's a news report of a small aircraft crashing into the World Trade Center, you immediately equated it not to be a small aircraft, but to be American 11 that was lost.
Precisely.
Okay.
And there was too much coincidence involved from my reasoning at that point in the middle of the situation. But more importantly, now I had another active airplane deviating with a lot of traffic coming out in this direction and climbing.
Okay.
And that was really going to be the skill level to miss this one. So he starts the turn, I'm running around, basically. We're watching him, everybody's turning airplanes. He gets to about here, he gets turning, and my job is also safety and control. And at this point, I feel like that is being compromised in my area. So I order all the controllers at this point, stop all the traffic. Stop everything you have. Don't take another airplane. Don't take them from Boston High en route. Don't take them from the Tracon climbing out. I don't want any airplanes in the area till we get this under control, basically. And so anyway, I gave that, again, fairly demonstrative, sort of leadership at this point. And United's turning, and we're doing everything we can. And, of course, it's chaos. sort of, there's a lot of yelling and screaming, vectoring, and, turn, I'm doing this, turn back and forth. There's a lot of controller activity in the area. I'm coordinating it. I'm watching the target. I'm running around.
And the chaos is related to an effort to clear all other aircraft in the area out of its path.
That's right. And we don't know what its path is.
Okay.
So now the United gets.
Well, you know at this point that he's not headed anywhere near the west, headed to the west coast, right?
No, he's supposed to be going down this way and not that way. He gets to about here, right between about J6 and J48. He gets right in this area right here.
Paul, if you could, just as, I'm sorry, recording, can you give a general location of J6? Like what part of the city or the state would that be?
Okay, that's New Jersey. This is Allentown. He's 20 miles southeast of Allentown.
Okay.
Turning to a southeasterly direction.
Okay.
Okay?
Go ahead.
And he is descending. He is out of his, and this is an obviously extremely abnormal situation. Even if the pilot was in trouble, there is a transponder code that he could put in, even if he lost his radios and everything, to tell us that he has an emergency on board.
And that he could put in 7600 if he lost his radio, right?
And 7600 if he lost his radio. Just radio. 7700 if he had an emergency.
And if he were being hijacked, 7500.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we know these things, and he wasn't doing that. He was on a limited data block, and we couldn't talk to him.
What were you, in your vast experience, both as a supervisor, controller, and pilot, what were you thinking was going on at that point in time in United 175?
Well, again, this is the point right here. That's what, you're taking the words like right out of my mouth. At this exact point, right between J6 and J48, when he was making this turn.
After he passed Allentown.
And the city is up here. This is what I'm thinking. He's going, I'm thinking he's going for the city.
Okay.
This is the point right between J6 and J48.
What's at J48? What part is it? What town?
Well, it's probably Pennsylvania. This is close here. It's 20 miles northeast of Pottstown, VOR.
Okay.
Is the best way to put it. At this point right here, again, the assumption of what the information that we had, I lost an airplane, there was a small crash, this and that. Now I've got this guy deviating. I'm saying for myself, thinking he's heading to the city.
Are you thinking at that point catastrophic mechanical failure or hijack or something else?
No, I'm thinking hijack.
You're thinking hijack?
I'm not thinking any kind of mechanical failure. No.
Okay. At that point?
No.
When he makes the...
I never did.
When he makes the left turn?
No.
Oh.
No, the airplane was fine. The descent, the speed.
At what point in time, if you could pinpoint it, were you starting to think that United 175 was probably hijacked?
I just
that point.
at that point when he started the turn.
Where was Bruce and where was Mike at that point?
Bruce is at the watch desk still.
And where's Mike?
Mike is right with me.
And so Dave.
And Dave.
That's awareness that you had at that moment. Was that transmitted to Mike? Did Mike have the same awareness at that moment?
I turned, at this point, I don't know if you have my other statement, but I turned to Dave LaCates.
Your other statement?
Yeah.
Which other one? Not this one, there's another one?
There's another one. I have a copy of it.
Okay.
I turned to Dave LaCates, and of course I'm thinking, and this, at the time I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to say something that's bizarre, but I turned to him and I said, scramble McGuire. Now, McGuire's an Air Force base in
New Jersey Air Force Base.
Now.
You said it to Dave, did you,
Yeah.
or Mike, or both?
Dave.
Dave. Scramble McGuire, okay.
Right.
You asked, what are you saying, get some military fighter pilots?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I'm thinking it's a hijack like the other one. I know almost positively. And we also have, at this point...
Did you tell him at that point, look, I think this is a hijack?
No.
Okay.
I just said, scramble McGuire.
But the inference was...
Yeah, but, and I have to say that, McGuire doesn't have fighters. They have tankers, and they have, but sometimes there's fighters there. There's Atlantic City. I'm trying to think, I just scramble. In other words, we got to shoot this guy down. He's going to go for the World Trade. I didn't say that, but that was the inference.
So you're thinking of, what's the nearest fighter base where we can
Right.
get some help?
And if you look at New York City and so forth, there is no near fighter base and so forth.
Let me ask you one other question before you continue with what happened with United 75 after you said to Dave, scramble some fighters from McGuire. I asked you, when you thought United 175 was a hijack, and you explained to us when you thought it was a hijack. And this may be difficult to do, but if you can parse out American 11, and for 1 second, make believe that American 11 didn't happen on September 11th, it was a single episode. So if you didn't have the sort of the background history that American 11 was lost and that you heard a report of a crash and that you thought that was American 11 that hit the Trade Center, if it was a single episode, would you still have thought that United 175 was a hijack as opposed to some sort of catastrophic mechanical failure or other explanation at that same point in time?
You're exactly right. Had not the history of American 11 gone on, at that point, I would have thought there was an equipment problem with him, and I would have thought I would have notified. My guess would have been a 767. He's going to land at Kennedy. Why? Because United has a big maintenance base there. Why? Because I've been there.
Okay.
So I would have thought this guy's in trouble. Something happened electrically. Lost his radio. For some reason, he's on a weird transponder code, and I would have, in the old days, treated that like an emergency and notified everybody and told Kennedy, possibly Newark, to get ready.
In the old days, you mean you would have done that on September 11th if American 11 had ever happened, I think.
Well, again, we didn't have confirmation that we had American 11 hitting the World Trade Center. However, the information that I had, to me, indicated there was too many coincidences. There was like probably 3 of us in Area B that could put that together in the world that said, if you had to see where we lost American 11, you had to know a report that a small airplane, forget the small airplane, witness, you could have a car accident right out here and there's 6 of us in the room and like 4 of us would see it one way and 2 would see it another way, or maybe there'd be 6 different, versions of it.
What type of car?
So when you say somebody like a small airplane hit, what's a small airplane?
What does Dave do, if anything?
He doesn't appear to do anything.
When you talk about McGuire, does he leave the area?
He doesn't. He turned and walked away from me. Now I don't know what he did. He could have done something. I don't know.
Do you know what direction he went?
He may have not even heard me, but I was.
Okay.
I don't. He never acknowledged or responded in any way to that statement.
Okay.
If I could, for a moment, while we're on this very point, I've got the transcript off position R55, which would have been Chris Tucker. And Chris is communicating to R09, and he's pointing out the 3321, which is the code.
The new code.
The new code.
Yeah.
And to R09, he says, that's a hijacked aircraft. It's an American Boeing 757. Based on your presence that day and Chris not being here, do you have any idea why Chris got the idea it was an American 757?
Chris was, and he's talking about United, right?
Yeah, the point out was the 3321.
Well, there's no beacon on American, so he had to be talking about. I think that was the United's new code. Sounds really close.
Yeah, it was the United. It was the one you guys were watching that Dave particularly had equated to 175.
Right. Why would he say it?
It's a bit spurious. You can intuitively believe that he meant it to be the other way around, but this is what the tape caught.
Okay, he is in the corner. We're over here, and he's down. Now, it's only, it's not that far, but there's a lot of action going on in the area. Chris has a lot of airplanes. He's doing a lot of talking on his 55 was busy.
He's 9?
He's 55.
Oh, he's 55, telling 9.
He's telling 9.
The Robbinsville guys coming out, the TWAs that came really close.
Okay.
He's got a lot of traffic going out like this. He's got guys climbing, then he's turning, he doesn't, whatever. He's busy. He's got an H. He talks rather loudly. I'm trying to be as polite and professional as I can here. And he said something that he didn't know to be fact. He was listening to bits and pieces, and
it appears. I mean,
he shouldn't have made anything.
It appears to us that he's talking United. And
he's definitely talking United.
And he's confusing it with the American situation with the 11.
He probably thinks the guy, he didn't know, he would not have known of a 31,000-foot traffic on J-80 that's descending. That airplane never comes in as sector. He wouldn't have known who it is.
When you're referring to which airplane?
United 175, sorry. And he would have never known about him. And since the data block, the full data block was off with the name.
Right, and the data block he's looking at doesn't have UAL or American or anything.
Yeah, it's just got 30, what is it?
3321.
It's just got 3321, and the altitude's going through there at 29, 28, right where he is climbing all his
And
guys.
just for the record, as we look at the transcript with the benefit of hindsight, it's 8:53 when R55 makes the statement that it's a hijacked aircraft. It's an American Boeing 757, correct?
Yeah.
And we know now that it's been reported that the first World Trade Center was hit by American 11 at 8:46, or 7 minutes before this comment.
Yeah, we looked on that. To us it looked like 47:02 is when we lost the hit. To be honest with you, when we
Give or take a minute around.
right, according to our timing and clocks and stuff. So, but even within that period, it's incredible how fast that information went. Because if they hit at 46 or 47, we had that information. Is he north of Potsdam about 20? See. And that's at 53. So a minute or two before that, so at 52. So within 5 minutes, maybe 4 minutes, we had the information in the area that an airplane hit the World Trade Center.
An airplane that hit. Now, you
A
don't,
small
and
airplane.
you don't know still where American 11 is.
It's not been confirmed.
Legally speaking, absolutely right. We don't have verification that it's American 11. That's why I told you the Egypt Air story. We didn't have verification. Positive.
The point being that what is being assimilated in bits and pieces is that something hit the World Trade Center. There's a fire at the World Trade Center. A small plane hit the World Trade Center, but no one has on the floor said it was an American 11 that hit the Trade Center. And you know, we're trying to read into Chris's mind a little bit. So Chris has this image.
Right. He
He has the 3321 with no correlation to 175.
Right.
And we're just trying to get a sense of why he said what he did. Could he have been thinking 11?
I don't know what he was thinking.
Okay.
I think
It's not fair to ask you that because
he was. That's why he was busy. He was doing his job, and it's hard to listen to anybody even talking right next to you when you're really concentrating when you're busy back and forth with the pilots. But that was obviously American. That was obviously United 175. He was referring to
because his previous statement was a reference to the 3321, and that would be the operating statement.
Yeah.
Correct.
Here's a copy of what, if you want it.
Where did you do this statement?
I want to. All right. I did this after the fact. When we were. Let me jump ahead. After this was over, I shut down all the traffic. I combined the sectors up. And I got people in to relieve the controls that were on duty because everybody was really, Chris in particular was very affected by this.
Chris Tucker?
Chris Tucker. We went upstairs. We were told to go upstairs to the main conference room. We were somewhat sequestered and not allowed to speak to anybody. We were told don't call home, don't say a word to anybody, about anything that's going on until we come in and get statements. So
Who's the we that's saying that?
everybody on duty. All the controllers that I had on duty, I have a copy.
Who's telling you not to?
Management. There was a manager, Bob Ott, who was not an operations manager, but he was one of the office managers here, and they asked him to sort of guide us through this process.
The they who asked Bob to guide you through the process, is that they here or is that they?
It's probably here. I don't know who exactly told them, but it's not abnormal procedure. If something happens like this, we're going to give statements. If two airplanes come too close, everybody writes statements and stuff. So something like this, obviously, planes going out of the way, something hitting the World Trade Center, we know this is going to be a big deal. I mean,
who said, if you can remember, was it one or more people, and if you remember who were the people saying, listen, don't call home, don't do anything, we have to bring you upstairs?
I think that was, Bob Ott was the one who was given sort of myself and the group the direction.
Okay.
Now, where he was getting that from, you have to ask him,
Okay,
kind of thing.
But it came to you from Bob Ott.
Yeah, it came to the group from Bob Ott with me there. The first place they sent us was the annex outside. There's another building out there, room 1 we were sent out to. And then they wanted us more sequestered, so they got us up to the conference room.
Does it make sense, just time-wise, that we sort of finish the story with what happened, the ultimate fate of 175 before we go to this statement?
I'm doing a timeline, and where we are in the 175 story is about 20 miles northeast of Pottstown.
Okay.
The United has made the turn southeastbound.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the time, again, that I have made this assumption, again, that perhaps this is going to be another situation where an airplane's hitting the World Trade Center, and we have to stop this airplane from hitting the World Trade Center.
Are you thinking at that point he's going to head for the Trade Center? Right?
Yes.
And when he goes by Pottstown?
Yes.
When he makes the turn towards Manhattan?
When he starts turning southeastbound, not even towards Manhattan yet.
And Mike would have known
He's
that.
heading to the coast.
That information would have been in Mike's head at that same time because he was near you.
He knew what United 175 was doing at that time.
Mike did.
Oh, yeah.
At the same time.
He was kind of watching too.
And
And
this 853,
Oh,
854 time.
I was letting everybody know he's southeast. I mean, you could have been a blind man and listened to me, and you would have known what was going on.
Okay.
So I made this. So the reason I want to talk about that statement was, this is like now 9:30 or 9:45 or whatever later, and we're up in here, and now it comes time for us to do the statements. Well, now we know that the buildings have been hit. They haven't fallen yet, and I'm around. I'm a management guy, and there's 15 or 20 controllers in this room. So what I say about military events is something that I said to the deputy quietly. I'm not sure I want everybody in that room to hear or know or write, and I don't know who's going to see my statements and stuff like that. So I sort of turned to Bob Ott, and I told him this, and he said, "Fine, we'll write it down later." So what I put is, during today's tragic events, I was asked to give an oral statement concerning my actions in reference to American 11 and United 175. Let me jump ahead.
Did you give a verbal
they,
statement?
We did a written, and then we went up to the old operations manager, another place where they had a tape recorder set up, and it looked kind of like a karaoke machine. Marty Fournier, who's now a supervisor, recorded those with Bob Ott.
We took verbal statements from
the guys and like eight of us, whatever, and the players, Mark, Merced, Dave Batiglia, Chris Tucker, Tony Palmieri, some of the guys who were working the positions, and myself.
These are all Area B people.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Who were involved in one aspect or another of
Right.
American 11 or 175.
Both, right. Okay. So for whatever reason, because of the enormity of the issue, they wanted oral recordings as well. That is rarely done.
Okay.
Rarely done. I can't even think when they would.
Did you give a verbal recorded statement?
Yeah. Okay. But I didn't want to say, because of who was in the room, exactly everything. I didn't. So I wrote.
Why did you think it was? Because it was sensitive or?
Well, I felt it was sensitive. I'm not. I felt it was sensitive, and it was something I said privately, as quietly as I could to Dave LaCates in the area and stuff like that. And I'm not sure I wanted, everybody in that room, the controllers, to know that I had said something about scrambling the military.
Why not?
I don't know. I was, upset at the time, and who knew what was going on and what, was going on, and I was just whatever. I didn't want it to be public knowledge. So anyway, there were numerous non-management personnel present during the recording. Because of this, I was reluctant to repeat a statement I made to Dave LaCates. After all the non-management personnel left the recording room, I stated for the record to Mr. Ott the statement I made to LaCates, and all I said is, scramble McGuire. And at this time, we knew the hijacking of American 11 and further received confirmation of an aircraft crash into the World Trade Center, which is where we had lost radar contact with American 11. Furthermore, United 175 was not replying to air traffic control calls and had begun descending and turning eastbound. That's exactly where I just showed you. As soon as he made that turn eastbound, that was it. I knew it. I was frantically trying to coordinate and separate this off-course aircraft from other known aircraft. And as the aircraft turned northbound along the Jersey coastline, I knew what was going to happen.
But so I'm clear, there was nothing like sensitive, secretive information about McGuire Air Force.
No.
No.
I just turned to LaCates and said, scramble McGuire. Look, he couldn't have, even if he had, let's talk 2 years ago, we didn't have the capability of communications or hotlines or anything like that set up that we could pick up a phone and scramble fighter aircraft to shoot down commercial airplanes. I
Out of McGuire or anyplace else.
Right. McGuire's a bad choice.
Well, when you said that on September 11th, to locate Scramble McGuire, did you have a thought that if they did scramble from there, that they would be shooting down the 175 at that time?
If I had had the authority, if anybody was in my position, knowing what I knew at that time, seeing what I was seeing at that time, and with the background that I have and stuff like that, and if I had the authority, I would have ordered that plane shot down.
Were you aware that there were procedures in place on September 11th for providing for military response to reported hijackings?
Yes, because I had worked at Kennedy Approach Control, and we had hijacks over the years, particularly from Europe, come over with fighter escort.
And what did you understand the military's role to be on September 11th if they were requested to assist in responding to a hijack?
Same procedures, where they would fly above and behind the airplane, up and behind the tail and so forth, sometimes a flight of one, sometimes a flight of two. We had actually used this procedure, the FAA, with Payne Stewart's, the golfer's Learjet, who went out. There was fighter escort on him the whole time we were tracking him and stuff. So this was not, while unusual, it had been done in the past.
And under those fighter escort rules and protocol,
yes,
if you know,
yes,
is part of that protocol the ability to shoot down an aircraft?
At that particular time, my guess would have been that decision would have to probably come from the White House. I would have doubted sincerely that a fighter pilot would have that operational permissibility to do that on his own. I would think that would have to be directed.
Let me just show you. This is Chapter 7 of the document the FAA provided to us, marked sensitive. So this is part of the tape should be classified sensitive SSI. It's Order 7610.4, Special Military Operations, Escort of Hijacked Aircraft. Did you ever, I guess, one, did you know this document existed, and then two, had you ever seen it prior to September 11th?
No. We would, that's correct, we would control it.
Just to go over, I guess it says the FAA hijack coordinator, and then in parentheses, the director or his designate of the FAA Office of Civil Aviation Security on duty at Washington headquarters will request the military to provide an escort aircraft for a confirmed hijacked aircraft to A, assure positive flight following, B, report unusual observances, and C, aid search and rescue in the event of an emergency.
Yeah, and that's the FAA. That's what our responsibilities are. You need to go to the military to see what they're.
And then it goes on as the request for service in the protocol, how you request for service. In fact, the escort service will be requested by the FAA hijack coordinator by direct contact with the National Military Command Center.
So the way that would probably go on is this: I would report to the watch Oman what's going on. He would report that to the region. The region would make the call to the air traffic manager at the region. He would make that determination to call Washington. Now we have, through flow control, we have more of a Washington command center set up more for flow. When I say command center, it sounds military in the sense that this would be a bunker headquarters or something like that. It's for flow control. But information like this, everything gets filtered to them. And they, I would suspect, would be the ones to report that to the hijack office and so forth. And then what procedures they follow from there.
There's also another document. I just want to see if you were aware of it prior to September 11th. It's Chapter 4, Air Piracy, Crisis Management Handbook.
No.
Okay. And basically the purpose of this Chapter 4 is supposed to be the purpose of this chapter is to establish FAA responsibilities and procedures to facilitate and coordinate the response to an air piracy incident.
Right.
Okay, so this is not something that you were, in your position as operations supervisor, were made privy to?
No. My job would be more to relay the information about what is happening operationally, altitude, direction, so forth.
Any understanding on September 11th as to how your role in responding to a what you believe to be a hijacking scenario would be to tell your supervisor and then let them pass it up the ladder, so to speak.
And if I was on a midnight situation, I would know exactly what ladder to pass that to from that desk as well.
Okay.
That's exactly right. See, and if there were communications from the aircraft, you know, and I've been involved with hijackings and stuff before, and it's more like we're going to Cuba or whatever. And it's like, and we are trained not only as controllers but as supervisors to coordinate and facilitate those requests.
Now, just on that note, you have participated in or have witnessed other hijackings in the past. None of them obviously involved prior to September 11th taking a plane and crashing into a building.
That's correct.
Had you ever heard of that scenario being suggested as a possibility by anybody, either someone in the FAA or someone outside the FAA?
No. Crashing airplanes into buildings?
Yeah.
No. We've heard of terrorist hijackings, of course, but not to use as weapons.
Not to use as a weapon of mass destruction. Okay. I'm just taking a second to read the statement which you just gave us. I had not seen before. Okay, so you're telling us now, if you could bring us back in time, Paul,
So I say, so basically I say at this point, back to this, I say, you know, we're missing this airplane to the best of our ability. I mean, it's, you know, it's again a situation where the airplane is doing something that we're not in control of.
In the typewritten statement you just gave us, towards the end of it, it says, as the aircraft turned northbound along the New Jersey coastline, I knew what was going to happen. What was it that you thought was going to happen?
I even said to Mark Merced, because I was back with him at 56, I said, he's going to go to the World Trade Center. He's going to hit the World Trade Center. That was the first communication after Dave Lucchese and I said scramble. I think we all probably knew that in the air. I was probably stating the obvious, but I was kneeling down again with Mark because now he's coming down and this and that. Now he's in 56's flow. He didn't quite get there, but that would have been like the next sector. Going back to Mark, and then of course we watched the altitude go down, and it was, I mean, we knew the last several minutes before he hit. We knew he was going there, and we just felt, you know, I said it to somebody that it felt like you're watching like a car drive off a cliff, and it's floating, and you know what's going to happen, and you know what the result's going to be, and there's nothing you can do about it, and you want to do something about it, and you're watching, and you're watching, and you're watching, and you're watching, and you feel so helpless and, you know, upset about it. And then, of course, by this time, of course, after United did hit, confirmation from the cafeteria and other sources, whatever, was nearly instantaneous.
So right after...
Cell phones, maybe, you know, Mike and Dave were on phones, you know, a lot during that, and they got like that.
Did you watch the altitude on United 175 go all the way down?
Yep.
To what point did you watch?
2,200 feet was the left. I mean, they were flying that airplane. He was high. I mean, they were very, very high. And at the end, he really had to push that nose down. I mean, they were in a very high rate of descent, and the speed was way up, way faster than American was.
How many knots would you recommend?
Oh, I'd have to guess, you know. I mean, I'd have to guess 350, 400 knots over the ground. I mean, they were high, and he had that nose down, and the targets were just jumping. I mean, they were like, I've worked the Concorde and all sorts of stuff like that, and it was like similar to a Concorde going out with the speed way up.
And after you lost the target, soon after then, if I understand you correctly, was reports came to you or you heard that the Second World Trade Center was hit?
Nearly instantaneous.
So was there any doubt in your mind what hit the Second World Trade Center?
None.
United 175.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you this. You're in the Area B. You're not looking at a TV. So you don't really know what's going on in the outside world specifically, and even in the World Trade Centers, correct? And you don't have a view as to, you're not watching the fire in the Trade Center.
I don't have a visual, but I have a mental picture. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. You have a mental picture, but you don't have a visual. You're not watching TV, and you can't look at the towers. But at the point in time when you thought you and potentially, I guess you're saying others may have also been thinking he's headed right for the Trade Center, did anybody make any suggestions about maybe trying to get some word to law enforcement or directly or indirectly, to get word to the trade centers that they thought the aircraft may be headed right for it?
We didn't do that. Had I thought it? Absolutely. Did we say, tell them he's coming? I mean, when he's at Pottstown, I was like, tell him he's coming. And
Or who? No, I'm saying, I'm not suggesting that it's something that somebody should have thought of, because there's a lot
Okay.
going on.
so it's even if, you're right. There was more than a lot going on. When the airplane turned, this was a deciding point for me. When he made that turn, personal, whatever, early, late, whatever, that's when I made the call. Shoot him down. Help, stop, save the people of New York. I mean, I even had a thought, and I'll say it for the record, of running another airplane.
At that time,
To stop him.
you had that thought, not in hindsight today, you're saying then you did.
Oh, yeah.
Did you convey that thought to anybody, or did you keep that was in your head?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was, yeah.
To your knowledge,
It was already, did you realize how bizarre and strange it was for me to even say, like, Scramble McGuire? I mean, to me, that's really strange. And that's why I felt uncomfortable. I didn't want to say that in front of him. Privately. And Bob Ott wanted it written down and signed because, he wanted it for the record, and he signed, initialed it, and I have a thing from him that I gave it to him and all this.
Mhm.
But
to your
that
knowledge,
was bizarre enough to say.
to your knowledge, neither yourself nor anyone in your area suggested that somebody try and contact someone at the World Trade Centers or law enforcement to get people out of there?
I know the command. I know that I would assume that the chief and the deputy on the phones were relaying everything they could to the operations center and at the region, and the region was notifying the proper law authorities and so forth. My job, and I'm not trying to. I know you're not even this at me.
No, and I'm just trying to find
The best thing
out.
that I can do for everybody is report exactly what this airplane is doing, and use my background to tell them what I suspect is going to happen. It was a great turn and descent and flight, except he was a little high there. I'm telling you, if you had me in a simulator, I mean, they did a good job. They turned and did it. I mean, it was all visual, but except for being a little bit high. So looking at that profile, what they did, it was projecting ahead. I mean,
And if you could, maybe if you
I've
could,
flown complicated and taught complicated instrument procedures with one engine out, under a hood, and all that kind of stuff. So looking at this and making a determination where he's going to go was rather simple.
let me ask you this then. If you could give us an estimate ballpark.
Yes.
I realize it's 2 years ago. In terms of when the impact occurred, how many minutes prior to that, in your mind, did you think he's trying to hit the trades, the other World Trade Center? If you did, were you think he was going to hit
Oh, yeah.
the other tower?
I just,
One of them?
they're going to crash into the World Trade Center.
Okay. And how many minutes?
I wasn't thinking of a particular tower, no.
How many minutes before impact would you say you were thinking that?
When I knew it, or right
Yeah.
here. And I'm going to say that was 7 minutes.
About 7 minutes before impact. Okay.
And it was a tough 7 minutes.
Because you obviously have to watch.
It's been a tough 2 years.
You have to continue to watch the scope and see what he's going to do.
And report.
Right.
I mean, that's what I'm trying to say, and maybe I did if I'm repeating myself, whatever. But that's the best thing that I can do at that point is report what that airplane is doing, what I think it's going to do. But what I think it's going to do is conjecture versus fact. And my job really is to report the fact. And the fact is, here he's going, and make sure the guys on the cell phones are knowing they're communicating with hopefully the right people. And
Okay. John, for the record, can we get you to, as precisely as you can, describe this point for us? Is it about this time, or was it even earlier in the turn?
No, it was about, this is Pottstown, and this would be north up here, so I'm going to say this is about 20 miles, just a rough guesstimate.
But at that point, he hasn't made the turn
northeast bound towards the city, right?
That's correct. He didn't go, I thought he went actually all the way to Robbinsville, and I saw the Satori. He didn't quite make it all the way to Robbinsville. This is a departure route. I mean, he's opposite direction departure routes. These guys are climbing out. I mean, it was like, I used this analogy in the past. It was almost like a Keystone Cop movie where they're driving the wrong way down a one-way street and people are jumping out of the way.
Point to me on the map here. At what point did you think he was headed towards the Trade Center to crash into it? Right here. Okay, let me ask you a question then. At this point, why would you be thinking of World Trade Center because he hasn't even made the turn yet northeastbound?
You're right. He wasn't exactly aimed at it, but in order to make the turn to get, not that I was thinking he was going to get lined up. He's going off course. He's descending. I've already had this situation over here. There's maybe a handful of us at this point that know, guess, surmise, conjecture that American 11 has hit the World Trade Center. It's a hijacked airplane. Now I've got another problem with an airplane. I just took it very early and whatever.
John, for the record, that point that he's describing on the radar returns is at about 8:54:36.
Okay.
8:54:36 on?
8:54, so 7, 8 minutes. Pretty good guess.
Actually, yeah, 8:09.
What are we calling it, 01 or 02? 02.
Actually, I think technical data shows the impact was about 03.
Was it?
903.
We showed 02, 01, but again,
Give or take a minute.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm telling you, and
So you're anticipating
it
his...
was chaos for the next, this is going to be 3 minutes here. This is going to be 3, and that's going to be like 4.
So before what I'm trying to get
Yes,
established
he was aimed at him.
before United 175 made the 180 and turned back towards the northeast, even before that last hard left turn, you thought that he was going to head towards the Trade Center to crash the plane. Okay.
Absolutely. I'm nodding. I'm sorry, we're on tape.
Okay, we just see more areas. We've already gone over that if American Airlines 11 had not occurred first that morning and been reported as a hijack and lost, you probably would have thought United 175 was headed for an emergency landing.
Yes, I would have thought it was an equipment problem and not a hijacking. And the reason I would have thought that is because he still had his transponder operating. We were receiving a transponder beacon, so therefore in my mind his transponder is working. Why it went to a different code would have been questionable. And he wasn't squawking an emergency or radio failure code or whatever, so that was a little bit unusual.
On September 11th and prior to that, how would a controller have detected a hijack situation?
All right, the number one we talked about would be the pilot would literally tell us, either through air-to-ground communications, or if he was not permitted to speak on the radio and permitted to do that, through his transponder, specifically code 7700. Emergency. If it was specifically a hijack,
Right.
I'm saying a hijack. How would a controller have detected a hijack on 9/11?
again, the same way, through communications,
But that,
and there are code words that we use.
and let me stop you there, and we go through each one, but that
Right.
didn't happen on either aircraft
Right.
on September 11th, right?
Right.
Okay, what's the next way?
Through the transponder, 7500.
And that didn't happen
Correct.
either
That didn't happen.
on September 11th. Okay, what other ways to detect a hijack?
That's all.
Okay.
Communication somehow.
So, but neither of those happened on September 11th.
Correct.
Would there have been any other way to try to detect a hijack on September 11th, given the training up to that point in time, since we didn't get this, since the pilot didn't send the transponder signal, and since the pilot didn't?
To confirm a hijacking, or to suspect?
We'll start with suspect.
All right. What happened would have been a primary target or an airplane that full data block, limited data block, primary target, an airplane that is not following its course, its clearance, altitude, route, whatever, that we're not talking to.
So you're saying in a way to
possibly suspect it would be if it was Nordo,
Off course.
off course, and had no transponder or change.
Yeah, the transponder could have been anything. We could have left it on. Could have been a full data block, and we have an airplane that's supposed to be going westbound over Hancock, coming down our way.
So
we don't know why.
You're saying even two factors could lead one on September 11th to suspect a hijacking. Those two factors are no radio communication and deviation from course.
Right. And of course, transponder. There's a third one. And of course, but you're saying suspect without knowing.
Right.
Oh yeah, the plane's flying, is going off course, and we don't know why, and we're not talking to him. We would lead that to believe a.
Now let's stay in the pre-September 11th world. With that, was there any way to confirm a hijack without getting either the 7500 signal on the transponder or some verbal, covert or overt confirmation from the pilot?
No.
What procedures would a controller have followed in a hijack situation pre-9/11?
The controller's first job would be to, of course, listen to the communication. Let's take the communication aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
If a pilot reported a hijack, the controller's first job would be to get the information and where do you want to go and so forth. The second thing they would do is report it to me or whoever's in charge of the area at the time.
The area supervisor.
Yeah, right.
And who'd you report it to?
The watch desk and go through very similar procedures at what we do. I would report that to like a Bruce Barrett.
That's the OMIC position.
The OMIC.
Your operations manager in charge.
Right.
And then would you leave the follow-up of that to the OMIC?
Yes.
And who would be responsible, if you know, within the center to request military assistance pre-9/11?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't believe that the operations manager would be doing that. We are somewhat.
But it wouldn't have been, as you understood, it wouldn't have been your response.
It certainly would have been not have been the operations supervisors, and I doubt it would have been the operation manager. Maybe the chief. I think it goes beyond that.
You seem to have some familiarity with the military. Is that fair enough to say?
Yes.
On September 11th, and prior to that, for that matter, were you familiar with Northeast Air Defense Center?
Yes.
Did you know what their role was, if any, with respect to a reported hijack?
Well, they had the quadrant, much like we have the sectors, and we looked at the maps like that. Northeast was NORAD's, this was NORAD's map, if you will. And yes, they would have participated, and they have in the past, although if you had asked me who Northeast is prior to that, I probably wouldn't have been able to tell you. I could tell you NORAD pretty well. Specifically Northeast and all that, we weren't.
Just curious, not that it's your responsibility, but if you had an emergency situation and you needed to contact NORAD or NEADS in a pinch, would you know how to do that pre-9/11?
Well, I would have to go to the watch desk, and it would have to be about 5 or 6 phone calls made. No, there's no.
But if you wanted to bypass that,
No.
would you know how to? Would you have a phone number in your head, or that you could go find
Oh,
somewhere?
no. I could call a local Air Force base is the best I have, and the only reason I have that is because we have a restricted area where the A-10s go in and practice bombing.
We talked about, I think, there were exercises prior to 9/11 that controllers were actually trained, I guess. Were there dynamic simulated exercises that you're familiar with that controllers go through training?
No.
Okay. Did you, prior to 9/11, have any training regarding the detection of hijacking, any FAA training on how to detect hijacking?
Yes.
Okay. What are those
Communication?
I mean, training, though. Were there any exercises?
No.
Tabletop, computers?
No.
Okay.
Simulations?
Yeah, simulated, dynamic simulated situations. No, meaning you as an operations supervisor.
No.
How about as controllers? Do controllers undergo that training, if you know?
We undergo training. This was, I think it's probably just easier for me to tell you what we had.
Yeah, tell me what you had. Pre-9/11.
Pre-9/11 as a controller and as a soup. A soup goes a little bit beyond it, but as a controller, your information with reference hijackers was this. A, get the information and pass it. B, cooperate. If they want to go opposite, they go wherever they want to go, and we move traffic out of the way. That was our pre-9/11 hijacking mentality.
And I think would you agree that over the last 20 years prior to 9/11, there weren't many instances of hijack?
Since after the 70s, after the mid-70s, probably like through the 80s, yeah, the last 20 years. Yes, I would agree that there were very few.
So, there would be, if there were very few, for a controller to respond to in the real world, what I'm asking is, were there any exercises or drills?
No.
Okay.
No. There was very little emphasis on it. It hadn't happened in a long time. Most of these controllers are 10 years relatively and stuff like that. They've probably never seen them.
So you're not aware of any pre-9/11 exercises sponsored by either the FAA or the military or some combination of those entities related to hijackings
Right.
that either you participated in or have knowledge of?
Correct.
None.
Correct.
Okay. How about, all right, so then I guess that would encompass, there were no exercises involving multiple hijacking scenarios
Correct.
prior to 9/11. How about post 9/11? Has that changed? Is there training regarding single or multiple hijacking events?
I haven't actually been through any myself.
You haven't yourself. Do you know if any controllers have?
I don't believe, we haven't done any exercises.
We, meaning we in New York?
I don't believe, New York Center.
Okay.
Do you mean like when they have real aircraft simulate like they're being
No,
hijacked?
but
Well, that would be one example.
that's one example. I mean, real life
No.
exercise where they have real life. Oh, and I also am including tabletop exercises, computer simulated, dynamic simulated exercises.
We have, the only review we have gotten is what to do in case of a hijack, in case of a known hijack.
And what is that? What
We didn't have a known, we never had a known hijacking in all of this.
In all what?
United 175 and American 11.
What do you mean we didn't have a known hijack?
We were told, even when American went into the World Trade Center,
Right.
okay, that it was a suspected hijacking.
You were told that by who?
Boston Center. There was no confirmation. Remember, Boston Center, American never told Boston Center that they were being hijacked. American 11 never squawked 7500.
Right.
So how do you know it's a hijacking?
Well, did you find out at any point either on September 11th or afterwards, that there were people in Boston that overheard conversations in a cockpit that were very threatening?
Yes, I knew that, and pilots reported that to my controllers, who reported that to me.
Okay.
Threatening, and even United said, like, blah, 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 stay in your seats. So we suspected, so I want you to make sure that, we're on the same page. Reference what we suspected, what we assumed, an intelligent decision based on the facts known.
We, New York?
We, me, and New York.
Okay.
Yes, we were treating it like a hijack. United 175, we didn't have time to treat it like a hijack. We were missing him with other airplanes. We were too busy missing him to sort of treat it like a hijack.
But you just said a few minutes ago, Boston said it was a suspected hijack.
Right. Unconfirmed.
Unconfirmed. Okay. But did it
When the things we were just talking about, communications, transponder codes, those are confirmed.
I understand.
And that's a difference. Somebody can say to you, I have an emergency, and treat it like an emergency. Somebody can say to you, I've lost an engine, I have two engines, I'm going to land, are you declaring an emergency? No, but we say, as a soup, I say, treat him like an emergency. So there's different ways of being confirmed.
Let me ask you this. After American Airlines hit the first World Trade Center,
yes,
we now know in hindsight, you say as soon as you heard about the report of the small aircraft, your feeling was that's American 11.
yes.
And with regard to 175, it was even more definitive and more real time. And what I mean by that is it almost instantaneous to you losing the target on 175. You heard there was a crash at the Trade Center, and you immediately equated that 175.
Right.
Correct? Would it be fair to say at that point that in your mind at least, those two were confirmed as having been hijacked or intentionally run into those buildings?
Well, not confirmed hijacking, because again, that phraseology was not, but I treated them like a hijacking.
In your mind, if I said to
Absolutely.
you, were those hijacks at that point,
Right.
what would you have said? Absolutely?
Oh yeah, I would have said, I'm treating it like a hijack, but I don't have confirmation.
Did anybody say to you after the impact of American 11 and after the impact of 175, did anybody say to you words to the effect, don't call it a hijack until we confirm it somehow?
No, nobody said that. We're just trained. It's not like that big a deal. I wouldn't have done anything different if it was a confirmed hijacking versus a suspected.
Well, I'm going to tell you why I asked you that question. There were some reports that surfaced, which you may or may not know about.
I don't.
After 846, or 847, let's say, which is the approximate time of the impact of American Airlines 11,
at some point after 8:47, when American 11, we now know, hit the trade center, on that day, later that day, there were some reports within the FAA, we believe, or reason to believe, and outside the FAA, based on some things we've seen and heard, that American 11 was still airborne. Do you know anything about those rumors or reports?
I've never heard that.
In the New York Center, based on your involvement on 9/11, do you recall anybody saying, at any point after the report of the small aircraft hitting the World Trade Center, do you recall anybody saying, hey, you know what, that might not be American 11?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the problem is this, and this is the way we're trained, and this is why I'm so, like technically, like it's a confirmed hijacking or suspected. Now, you can have 8 airplanes deviating, and you're going to say, like, how many airplanes does it take for you to realize something's going on?
Right.
But is it confirmed? No. But logically, what's your assumption? And there's assumptions and there's confirmations. We had a primary target and we lost a primary target. America could be heading American 11.
Oh, okay.
We lost the primary target off the radar. He could be heading to Bermuda for all we know. Yes, that could not have been him. Yes, that was it. Yes, that was a consideration. But you know what happened? United almost at the same time. He hits at 8:46, and whatever time, United stops talking to us and stuff, it had to be like 2 minutes later. It was almost at the same time. If that didn't happen, we could say, we don't know where he is. I'd be calling Washington Center and saying, hey, heads up, I lost the primary, I don't know where he is, blah, blah. But since United deviated, it was just so much put together at so close a time that I had assumed. And let me tell you something. I've seen actual news of small airplanes hitting buildings, like there was a Cessna 172 in Tampa and stuff like that. You wouldn't see a fire from the World Trade Center. The Cessna would bounce off the World Trade Center. A small twin-engine airplane, even the ones I used to fly, there'd be maybe a little bit of smoke. We had guys, there's a major fire in Lower Manhattan. Hello? So,
Okay, I just wanted
so
to make sure I cover this.
So, yes, it's possible if somebody had said that. Yeah, technically they're correct.
I'm not asking if it's possible. I'm asking you, did you hear anybody say on that day,
No.
hey, we lost another aircraft, small or large, and we think that might be the one that hit the trade center? Do you recall hearing anything like that?
No.
And so in your...
I'm the only guy. I'm the guy who said American. This is me. I'm the guy who said it had to be American 11.
But I'm talking about other people.
No.
Did you hear any other reports
No.
in the New York Center that day to the effect that it was not, or maybe it was not American 11 that hit the trade center, but a different aircraft?
No, because I'll tell you why. Because after within half an hour, we were sequestered. I didn't even see it. We went out for like 2 minutes to the cafeteria, and all this stuff was on TV. And they said, because of the traumatic effect of it, you better get these guys out of here.
Do you recall hearing something from outside the FAA Center being reported outside the New York Center, coming in to New York, a report from outside the center to the effect that American 11 was still airborne after
No.
after 8:46, 8:47?
No.
Okay.
I didn't get any reports of any kind.
Do you remember hearing anything about a plane being lost off Poughkeepsie in the New York Center on September 11th?
No.
Okay. I'll turn it over to Miles.
I've just got 2 very minor points. Let me go ahead on those. Let me go back to where you very first started. There was a possible error that took you off the floor, and Ivana was initially in charge of Yes.
the CIC. The position involved in that possible error, did it have anything whatsoever to do with American 11?
No, that was R39.
Okay, that was over here,
And that went only up to 28.
okay. So that position did not play then the rest of the day, except to help a little bit, or to be informed of traffic.
The only other involvement that R39 had is, as I said, when United 175 was here, and I'm pointing to Elliott, and when we were looking for him, the coast track and all that was going on. Just about underneath was United 93 as a departure, normal departure, nothing out of the ordinary whatsoever.
Okay. Was position 39 closed down, or was
No.
It was not closed?
I didn't close positions down in the area until, well, I had issued the order to stop everything
probably about 8:54, 8:55. And it was probably about 15 or 20 minutes later, even after United hit, that all the airplanes had left the airspace. And when each sector was clear of aircraft, I combined it, and we have different combination procedures.
Just one other technical point, a minor point, but where are the A-10s based out of?
Bradley.
Bradley is,
You mean the ones that go into 5,000 or 5,002?
yeah,
They're up. Well, they're not. They're.
Bradley
Yeah, I
is
think they're at Bradley. Hartford.
Connecticut.
Hartford, Connecticut.
Okay, so the A-10s are at Hartford. They routinely train with armament, or they?
Yes,
And in addition to bombs, do they carry guns? Do you know?
I think so.
Just it's a bombing type.
It's a bombing.
Okay.
You gave us this other document today, Paul, that was dated September 11, 2001, regarding the Scramble McGuire statement. Are there any other statements other than the one you gave us today and the one that we already had, which I'm showing you now?
Yeah, I don't believe that I wrote an American 11 statement, and we had asked them, what do you want us to write about? And I think, to the best of my recollection, seriously, was the fact that they had Boston Center going to handle the American 11 accident, and New York Center was going to handle the United 175. So therefore, just fill out a United 175 statement.
Let me ask you about that. Do you know why Boston Center was going to handle when you say handle the accident, you mean take all the statements regarding the accident of American 11?
Usually the facility that has control of the airspace or the airplane that's involved in an incident will do the paperwork, reference incidents, line accidents.
Well, the accident of American 11 occurred in New York City.
Right. It wasn't New York Center airspace.
Whose airspace was it?
Well, it would be New York TRACON, and then it would be LaGuardia Tower. I mean, you could say that airspace, the building is actually, below, airspace.
But certainly it's closer to being New York's airspace than Boston, right?
If you go up, you go through like 3 different people, and then it's New York Centers. But you don't understand what I'm saying?
Right, but I'm saying it's
talking
Boston.
ground level.
I understand that, but Boston took the statements on American Airlines 11, to your knowledge, right?
Yes.
And did that make sense to you, being that the accident occurred in New York City, the incident?
It could have gone either way, but mostly, so much of American 11 happened in Boston. It didn't strike me as being totally unusual. I was a little surprised because I had involvement and I was never asked. I mean, let me be candid with you.
Yeah, let's.
You guys are the first people that I've ever talked to in over 2 years about what went on. Nobody has asked anything. You're the first group to come here.
I'm a little, Paul, I'm just asking this because I'm perplexed by
why they did the package versus us.
Now, you say a lot went on in Boston. Well,
the airplane was, they had communication.
They lost comms in
deviated.
Boston.
They lost transponder.
Lost the transponder in Boston.
They were making calls to New York Center. That airplane, American, we never knew what his altitude was. He could have been.
But would you agree that it did enter? They knew after the accident occurred. Okay, and when they asked for these statements, at that time they knew that American 11 traveled through New York's airspace, New York Center and TRACON.
Well, afterwards they knew that.
Afterwards.
Okay. Fair enough.
Afterwards they knew that it went from New York Center and TRACON space.
Let me just for a moment jump in. The technical point is that no one ever knew, because you didn't have an altitude on it, that
Right.
it was ever in your airspace.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
I don't even know. I've never even seen any radar altitude data on American to this day.
But doesn't that defy the reality of the fact that you guys were treating it as if it was in your airspace and were directing traffic to try to find it, and were clearing traffic as if it was in your airspace?
You're absolutely correct.
Okay,
And the reason we were is because some Boston Center said the last known was flight level 290. Now what's the mindset of a controller, supervisor, FAA, maybe in general, on a hijacking? They're going to go to Cuba, they're going to hold people hostage, they want money or something, they're going to crash airplanes. They're going to land somewhere, and they'll tell us if they want to land,
Let me see if I can,
and we'll cooperate.
let me see if I can put it a different way. There was a last known altitude of 29,000 feet, correct? And that was confirmed at some point in Boston.
Boston Center told my control of that on landline, yeah.
And there was at that point, there was a transponder on, so that's pretty confirmed information that at some point that aircraft was at 29,000 feet, right?
Probably that's what the controller was getting. It was probably his last altitude that he saw, and that's where they were probably getting.
In hindsight, after the accident occurred, is there any way you can get from 29,000 feet in Boston to hit the World Trade Center at, let's say, below 2,000 feet?
Oh, yeah, without entering New York City?
Without entering New York Center?
Yes,
Okay.
very easily.
Okay. Can you do that without hitting New York Trade-Cons?
No.
Okay.
Which puts it in Eastern region and not New England region.
Yes.
And you're part of Eastern
I,
region.
yes.
Okay. So you were never asked to give a statement specific to your recollection of what happened with American 11?
Correct.
Did you find that to be odd? Being
Yes.
You had involvement with American 11?
Yes.
Did you ever ask anybody, well, don't you want to hear what I have to say about 11 being that crash too, and I was involved with it?
Yes.
What were you told?
When they want it, they'll ask you for it.
Who's they?
The FAA. You know who will ask me for it?
Who? Well, they. I mean, the FAA is an entity.
Somebody will come to me. In other words, it was like, you don't need to write a statement, you don't need to volunteer. Thank you.
Who did you raise?
My manager,
Who?
Sam Shelton.
Sam Shelton?
Yeah.
And is he still here?
Yes.
Okay, what position does he have today?
Operations manager.
Okay.
I said, coordinating.
Administrative.
Right.
That's on the administrative side.
Right. He's in charge of Area B. And everybody, the deputy and the chief, they're all here.
Let me just follow up on that point. So, 9/11's done with, and now we're in the aftermath, and we're trying to put the pieces together what happened. That's no longer on the ops side, that's on the admin side to do all of that.
Correct.
Your boss at that point is Sam, and your only operational relationship with Bruce and Mike has had to do with the events that day. The aftermath is handled in the administrative chain.
Correct.
So you never, did you
So if they wanted, in other words, if they had wanted a statement from me reference American 11, more than likely, if they followed protocol, they would have gone through Sam and had him get me to write a statement.
If the verbal statement that you gave later that morning when you said everybody was
Yeah.
sort of brought up by Bob Ott
Yeah.
to this room,
Yeah.
you wouldn't have any problem if we were to listen to that verbal statement, would you?
No.
I guess lastly, let me ask you, Paul, if you were a commissioner on the September 11th commission,
Mhm.
and you were looking at making recommendations to Congress and the administration
Mhm.
regarding vis-a-vis aviation issues,
Mhm.
what recommendations, if any, would you suggest to make the aviation industry even safer than it is today?
Well, I could go on and on about this. First of all, security at the gates and stuff like that, and a lot of these obviously have been done.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were more interested in, you playing a radio when they were taxiing out than if you were carrying a hunting knife, on you. Security at the gates is number one. Security at the airports.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about, I've been on lots of ramps and stuff like that. This goes beyond my job. Do you want to hear this?
Sure.
Security at the ramps, cleaners, maintenance people, fuelers. It was. And I was just on the ramp at LaGuardia last week, and that's where you're going to get access to airplanes and stuff like that.
When you were on the ramp at LaGuardia last week, what did you observe?
I was with an FAA guy. We were in a LaGuardia Tower van, and they drove us through. And to get to the tower, believe it or not, you have to drive out into the ramp, and then you walk upstairs to the tower. And it was just as we were in the back of the van, and it was pouring rain, so we were like, oh, you're going to have to get out and fill out your names. And we had our IDs and stuff with us. And it was we just held the IDs up to the window, and they drove us in. So we could, whatever. I mean, technically, if you really wanted, now we're into the post-9/11 mindset. We could have hijacked that van in the parking lot, held the gun to the guy's head, held fake IDs up, and, we were right out there with the airplanes. So whatever could happen, can happen.
So you think even today they ought to clamp down a little more on
Oh, yeah.
security in the ramp area?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
What-
Baggage, all that kind of stuff. That's where that's when I was a pilot. That's what I was always worried about. You know, I mean, I always checked my own baggage, locks, and stuff like that. You know, sometimes we'd have cargo light on, and the thing was locked. But you know, that was kind of stuff that worried us. We were never thinking bombs or stuff like that, but now you never know. But from the air traffic, you know, if I was commissioner on this, I'd say, look, guys, I'm a pilot. I've got a lot of air traffic experience. I can be more service to the commission, you know, in those areas. And I just told you, like, the piloting part. And now the air traffic part about this is, you know, there's very little we can do. There's very little we can do except cooperate with a hijacker. It's still, that mentality still basically goes on. What could we do if we were in this situation with a very, very close, I mean, if somebody really hijacks an airplane very close, minutes to New York City, it's going to be really hard unless you always have airborne combat patrols and stuff like that, and pilots have the proper authority to act. And all that is post 9/11 type of stuff. We communicate better now with the military than we did. There is an open line at the watch desk with Northeast and stuff like that. So I think we'd get a greater response time. But
Northeast Air Defense.
NORAD, I'm sorry.
NORAD.
Yeah, Northeast Air Defense. But if I'm working in this area down here, you know, I either got to call them on the phone or, like, to me, walk over, whatever. There's still a little bit of lag back and forth.
So your suggestion would be there should be some hotlines dispersed throughout?
It depends on, it depends on how much authority they want to give to an operational supervisor. And I'm not sure that every operational supervisor has my background and stuff like that. And you guys really don't want operational supervisors maybe making those types of calls. What you really want is the operational supervisor to provide the watch desk with instant information, and we have that capability with phones and stuff like that.
You say the relationship, the communication's better, I believe you said, with the military.
To the military, yeah.
What about pre-9/11? What was the nature of that?
It was, it would have been hit or miss. I would have gone to the desk, looked for a phone number. If we didn't have dealings with an Air Force base reference to 5002, we wouldn't have landlines at the controller positions on the DSCS, on the voice panel that they have. Now we have Northeast at only one position, and only one sector in my area, and the R and the H, both have it if he has a helper. But, like that kind of stuff.
That's communications. How was the relationship between the FAA and the military pre-9/11 in your estimation?
We only dealt with airplanes going in and out of the practice bombing range.
In Area B?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so they were, except for the military office, who would coordinate other activities, exercises and refueling things over the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
I was involved in the Persian Gulf 11 years ago. We had, Desert Storm. We moved a lot of airplanes over, and we really, I think, through working midnights and stuff like that, really developed a very good relationship with the military. I mean, we treated them like first-class citizens, and they were extremely appreciative of it, and, we all supported their mission and felt compassion, for our people in there and so forth. But even now we have limited direct communication. So I would look into that aspect of it if I was a commissioner.
Okay. Any other aspects?
I think the only other thing that I might suggest is if the manufacturers of transponders, they've gotten better. American 11 was, where you turn it off and it's off. Mm-hmm. And now United was in a little updated model, and now it at least goes to a different beacon code. They could maybe update those and maybe have something.
But did you just say that United beacon code, that's a transponder that they could not be turned off?
I believe that they had the type of equipment. Guys can look into this. I think some of the newer airplanes, the newer 767s or whatever, have the type of transponders.
Let me just stop you on that point. We have 4 hijacked aircraft that have 3 unturner transponders off one this time. One changes code, which is 175.
Yeah.
One of the other 2 airplanes was 93, which was also a United aircraft.
7 what?
57.
757.
Could have been right. It could have been
757, 767 might have different transponders.
I think there's an updated transponder you can't turn off.
And that might have been on this.
It goes to a different code.
767,
Yeah.
but then you also let American 11 turn its transponder off.
Right.
Does that imply a difference between the two companies in terms of?
No, it implies the equipment is different. The transponder may have been different.
In 11 and in.
Yeah, I think they have an updated transponder that you can't turn off. I'll always give you for safety reasons.
We'll go to a different beacon code.
They,
You're the first person that's told us that.
yeah, that's what I heard.
But you have more experience than anybody else because you're trained, you're a certified pilot.
Yeah, I heard that from the pilot side of it, that they had an updated one.
From the pilot side.
Yeah, I think, just possibly research that. I mean, it just, why would they change it? It was the original code was 4004.
1470.
1470?
1470.
And the new code was 3321. They changed all 4 digits.
Well, they changed,
Right?
not only that, they changed it twice.
But, they made 4 things, they could have just turned one knob off. So what would you,
We're asking you to speculate on this.
I'm speculating.
I'm going to ask
Thank
you
you.
a question on this. I'm going to give you some facts. If that transponder on United 175 started at 1470, meaning that was the assigned transponder code, and if at some point during the flight it was changed
3020.
to 3020,
Mhm.
and then to 3321 almost immediately thereafter, 1 minute after,
Mhm.
just asking you based on your pilot's experience, speculate, knowing what you know now in hindsight about what happened that day. Do you think that was either A, an attempt by the United Airlines pilot to try and get the code to 7500 to send a signal, or do you think B, it was the hijackers trying to shut it off? And obviously, if you brought in this new factor that maybe they couldn't shut it off, we have to look into that. Or C, that the hijackers were potentially just trying to change the code just to sort of confuse the mix.
Right. It could have been any of those. It could have been all of those. The first one, if I was flying and I wanted to change codes, the first code I would change was the first digit.
You would have got 37 on
We're going to write the 7.
Right.
Okay.
The first one, and, depending who's sitting and who's doing it, whatever, it's right here. So he's reaching down and doing it.
Right to your side.
Right, and almost adjacent to your shoulder. It's
The
like,
first one he's going to hit is the leading digit, not the trailing digit.
right. I mean, if I'm squawking for argument's sake 0000, and you tell me to squawk 4232, 4, 2, 3, 2 in that order. That's just the way you're trained to do it as a pilot, and that's the way you do it. So if you're looking at a change of code like that, look at the first digit and see at the first. But if you didn't get finished with the first digit, you wouldn't really go to the second digit either.
Right, the first digit would have been changed.
It could have been. I think it's more likely that my personal thought is that there was no off switch, and they just scrambled it.
In an attempt to turn it off, or it didn't go off.
And they got maybe frustrated or tried to, like that was on their little checklist or whatever things to do, and they couldn't turn it off, and they got frustrated, so they changed it. But you change it one little digit. What was it? 1470 was it?
1470.
You go to 1471, and it's going to come up a limited data block.
And it's the same effect on the
So
stroke.
The computer's not going to recognize 1470.
And lastly, Gordon, you said that might have been on their checklist. And in that regard, if you go to flight school and you try and take some lessons,
Yes.
are you taught pretty early on that what the codes are for hijack or emergency, that there are ways to...
Yeah, pretty early on.
So in your estimation, that if the hijackers took flight lessons, they probably would have learned
Oh, they would have.
pretty early on that...
For their level, for even to fly manually a 767 or something like that, even though it's still an airplane with controls and all this and that, they would have definitely known, that the pilots were trying to indicate something. But I'm sure they never got to that point.
They would have known where the transponder was, and they would have known.
Oh yeah.
And probably in school would have been taught about an on-off switch, perhaps.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh, well, if you look at the flight track, I mean, it was a nice descent and a nice turn. I mean, this wasn't somebody who was up there for the first time, trying to maneuver a big airplane. This was obviously somebody the track looked professional almost, except for the descent at the end was rapid because they were high.
I have no other questions, and Paul, if you think of any other recommendations you'd make after today, feel free to give us a call. You have our cards. That concludes the interview with Paul Thumser. It's approximately 9:42 a.m. Thank you.
Okay.